The story begins in the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, where broken clay tablets buried beneath the desert carried the names of beings that most people had never heard of until modern times. The Anunnaki. According to the ancient Sumerians, they were powerful divine figures connected to the heavens, kingship, creation, and the fate of humanity itself. But thousands of years later, those same names would become the center of one of history's strangest modern mysteries. Because to some people, the Anunnaki were not simply mythological gods, they were visitors, ancient astronauts, sky beings, entities that supposedly arrived on Earth long before recorded history and engineered human civilization from the shadows. The theory exploded across books, documentaries, conspiracy circles, and internet forums, transforming obscure Mesopotamian mythology into a global obsession. But separating fact from fantasy is where the real story becomes fascinating. The roots of the mystery stretch back more than 5,000 years to the cities of ancient Sumer in southern Mesopotamia, in what is now Iraq. This was one of the first urban civilizations in human history. Massive temple complexes rose above crowded streets. Priests tracked the movement of stars, kings carved their victories into stone, and scribes pressed symbols into wet clay tablets that survived for millennia beneath the sand. Those tablets described a vast world of gods, spirits, floods, wars, and cosmic order. Among these divine figures were the Anunnaki, whose name is often translated loosely as offspring of Anu, the sky god. In Sumerian religion, they were connected to authority and divine judgment. Some stories placed them in the heavens, others linked them to the underworld. But nowhere in the original texts did ancient scribes describe spaceships descending from the stars. That interpretation came much later. For centuries, the tablets remained unreadable. The strange wedge-shaped symbols, known as cuneiform, had been forgotten after the collapse of Mesopotamian civilizations. Entire libraries of ancient knowledge sat silent beneath ruins, while empires rose and fell above them. Then, in the 19th century, archaeologists began uncovering enormous collections of buried tablets across the Middle East. The discoveries shocked the world. Ancient flood stories appeared that sounded disturbingly similar to the story of Noah. Kings' lists described rulers reigning for impossibly long periods. Mythological accounts spoke of gods shaping humanity from clay. Suddenly, parts of the Bible no longer looked entirely unique. Older civilizations had already told remarkably similar stories thousands of years earlier. And then came the Library of Ashurbanipal. Buried beneath the ruins of Nineveh, the ancient Assyrian capital, archaeologists uncovered tens of thousands of clay tablets belonging to one of the largest knowledge collections of the ancient world. It was not the famous Library of Alexandria, but in many ways it felt even more mysterious because these texts came from civilizations far older than classical Greece or Rome. Inside the library were myths, astronomy records, omens, royal decrees, rituals, and epics copied from even older Sumerian traditions. Among them was the Epic of Gilgamesh, which included a catastrophic flood narrative centuries older than Genesis. To many researchers, it proved that ancient cultures constantly borrowed and reshaped stories from one another. But for others, it suggested something more unsettling. What if these myths were distorted memories of real events? That question became fuel for an entirely new interpretation of ancient history during the 20th century. Writers outside mainstream archaeology began arguing that ancient myths should not be viewed symbolically at all. Instead, they claimed the texts were misunderstood historical records describing advanced beings interacting directly with humanity. One of the most influential figures behind this movement was Zecharia Sitchin. In the 1970s, Sitchin published books claiming the Anunnaki were extraterrestrials from a hidden planet called Nibiru. According to his interpretation, these beings arrived on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago, searching for gold. He argued they genetically engineered humans as a labor force and became the gods worshipped in ancient civilizations. The theory spread rapidly because it transformed mythology into a cosmic secret history. Ancient kings were no longer symbolic rulers blessed by gods. They became descendants of alien bloodlines. Massive monuments like the pyramids became evidence of forgotten technology. Flood myths became records of catastrophic planetary events. To believers, the entire ancient world suddenly looked different. But there was a major problem. Most mainstream historians and Assyriologists argued that Sitchin's translations were deeply inaccurate. Experts who spent decades studying cuneiform tablets repeatedly stated that the original Sumerian texts did not describe alien mining operations, genetic engineering, or a rogue planet returning to Earth. Many scholars accused Sitchin of combining mythology, speculation, and mistranslation into a story that sounded convincing to general audiences but lacked historical evidence. Still, the theory refused to die. Part of the reason was timing. During the Cold War and space age, humanity became obsessed with extraterrestrials, hidden government secrets, and ancient mysteries. The moon landing proved humans could leave Earth. Science fiction exploded in popularity. Conspiracy culture expanded. In that atmosphere, the idea that ancient gods were actually advanced visitors felt strangely believable to millions of people. And there were other mysteries adding fuel to the fire. The Book of Enoch became one of them. Excluded from most biblical canons but preserved in ancient Ethiopian tradition, the text described mysterious beings, called the Watchers, descending from heaven before the Great Flood. According to the story, these beings shared forbidden knowledge with humanity, teaching warfare, metalworking, astrology, and hidden secrets that corrupted the world. To ancient religious audiences, the story symbolized moral collapse and divine punishment. But modern theorists saw something else entirely: beings descending from the sky, forbidden technology, ancient hybrid offspring called the Nephilim. Once again, mythology began merging with speculative interpretations about lost civilizations and non-human influence. Internet forums and documentaries connected the Watchers of Enoch to the Anunnaki of Mesopotamia, even though the traditions came from different cultures separated by time and geography. The result was a giant web of interconnected theories. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria added another layer of mystery. Because once people believe lost knowledge existed, imagination fills the gaps. The famous library became a symbol of everything humanity might have forgotten: ancient science, forbidden history, hidden maps, lost technologies, and secret records erased forever. There is very little evidence that the Library of Alexandria contained alien secrets. But the idea itself became powerful. Every missing scroll created room for speculation. Every destroyed archive became proof, to some people, that ancient truths had been hidden intentionally. And that psychological pattern appears constantly throughout history. Humans are naturally drawn to mysteries with missing pieces. When evidence disappears, theories multiply. Ancient civilizations already feel distant and surreal to modern audiences. Their monuments are enormous. Their symbols are difficult to understand. Their religions describe cosmic forces, divine punishment, heavenly beings, and catastrophic floods. It becomes easy to reinterpret mythology through a modern science fiction lens, especially when the real ancient world was already extraordinary. The Sumerians developed some of the earliest writing systems on Earth. They built complex cities, tracked planetary movements, established legal systems, and created monumental architecture thousands of years before modern technology. To ancient people, that level of advancement probably did feel godlike. But there is a difference between impressive civilization and extraterrestrial intervention. Modern archaeology continues uncovering evidence about how ancient societies actually evolved through agriculture, trade, warfare, engineering, and cultural exchange over thousands of years. The pyramids, temples, and ziggurats, once attributed by theorists to alien builders, increasingly reveal human methods, human labor systems, and gradual architectural development. Yet the Anunnaki theory remains enormously popular because it taps into something deeper than archaeology. It offers a hidden narrative beneath official history, a story where ancient myths are encrypted truths, where forgotten tablets contain suppressed knowledge, where human civilization may have origins stranger than we imagine. Even people who doubt the theory are often fascinated by the possibility because it transforms history into a mystery waiting to be solved. And in a strange way, the real story may be just as revealing, not because the Anunnaki were extraterrestrials, but because the theory itself shows how modern humans interact with the ancient past. We look at broken ruins, incomplete texts, and vanished libraries, then project our own fears, hopes, and obsessions onto them. Ancient people once imagined gods descending from the heavens. Modern societies imagine advanced civilizations from distant stars. The symbols changed. The mystery stayed the same. In the end, the Anunnaki remain exactly what they began as thousands of years ago. Powerful figures inside the mythology of one of humanity's earliest civilizations. The clay tablets are real. The ancient cities are real. The myths are real. But whether those stories describe gods, metaphors, misunderstood history, or something else entirely depends on who is reading them. And perhaps that is why the theory continues surviving generation after generation. Because buried beneath the ruins of the ancient world is a question humans have always struggled to answer. Were we ever truly alone?